Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Internships Workshop. We're going to give you an overview of internships in general. So if you have specific questions, please go to Handshake and make an appointment with your career advisor, or you can email us questions at career@udallas.edu. So here's what we're going to talk about today: the definition of an internship, why you should intern, what to look for in an internship, how to find an internship, typical internship application process, and then we're going to discuss how to make the most of an internship while you're there. So let's talk about what is an internship. There are a lot of different interpretations of what an internship really is, but the basic definition is a temporary job in which a student or recent graduate gains experience outside of the classroom. So let's go over some specific characteristics of an internship. The compensation for an internship can be paid or unpaid. About 60% of internships are paid, about 40% unpaid. And whether or not the experience is paid or unpaid oftentimes depends on the industry that the internship is in. Oftentimes nonprofits will have unpaid internships, and often government associated jobs or political campaigns, things like that, will often be unpaid. Now, a lot of companies really see the importance of paying interns for the work that they do, and they also understand that it is a diversity and equity issue. Not everyone can afford to do an unpaid internship, and so by paying their interns, then they're making sure that they are offering to students the best experience they can, and then rewarding them for that work that they're doing. We actually really recommend that you look for paid internships, but we will include some unpaid opportunities in Handshake. We've asked students in the past if they would like us to just focus on paid internships, and they've told us they'd like to see all opportunities. But there are paid opportunities out there, and we recommend that you look for those first. And there may be some changes coming in the future from COVID. We can't really say if there will be fewer paid internships versus unpaid internships. What may actually happen is that companies will reduce the number of internships that they have available, and thus those paid internships will become very competitive. So it's definitely worth exploring and looking at options that are out there well before you're ready to jump into an internship. Another characteristic of internships is the schedule. There may be some flexibility to the schedule depending on whether it's a summer opportunity or an opportunity during the school year. It could be part-time or full-time. And typically an internship is short-term. So during the fall or spring, typically internships are usually about 15 hours a week. Some may be as many as 20, and some may be as little as 10 hours a week. During the summer, internships are often 40 hours a week, and usually anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the organization. The responsibilities of an internship really can run the gamut. You know, there's these kind of ideas out there that interns get coffee, or they make copies, or they make the lunch run, or something like that. That's not an ideal situation. In the best internships, the intern actually is taking responsibility for a particular project, or maybe they're shadowing someone who is doing a job that they may actually be interested in doing. Regardless, the ideal internship has some responsibility for the intern to actually make an impact on the organization. And finally, training. You should expect training in your internship, because what you'll be doing, this experience that you'll be having, is a situation where you'll be learning new skills. So while you want to have a situation where you do have some autonomy and you are working on a particular project, you hopefully will have a situation where you're being trained in business skills, professionalism, and you're learning new things that you can take to a future job as well. Okay. One thing that I do want to mention before we wrap up the characteristics of internships is credit. Now, the employer does not decide whether or not you can get academic credit. And some employers will try to say, oh, well, we're offering course credit instead of paying you. But that's not up to the organization. That's up to the university. And it's not an either or situation. You can get paid and get credit. You can have both. Getting paid doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you get credit. Whether or not you get course credit for an internship is determined by your degree plan and whether or not you meet the requirements set forth either by our office or your academic department. So make sure when you're thinking of trying to decide if you want to have academic credit and if doing an internship fits in with your degree plan, you can discuss those items with our office or with your academic advisor. Okay, so why should I intern? Let's talk about why you should intern. So the most obvious reason is because you're going to gain experience, but there's actually some other things that you should think about. Students who intern are more likely to get jobs after graduation. It's an integral part of preparing you for your career. Even if you're planning to go straight to graduate school, doing an internship before you leave undergrad can have an impact on your future career. Having professional experience is the best way for a future employer to gauge how you'll contribute to the organization. So something else, another reason why you should consider an internship is career exploration. Internships oftentimes are a positive experience. Sometimes they're not as positive, but what a great way to learn what you don't want to do. So you can find that you may find that you loved the job and that you loved what you did every day. You may find you didn't like it so much. Either way, you've explored what the day-to-day life of that industry is like. Getting real experience is another way. And of course, we put real in quotations because every experience is a real experience. But when you can show up at an organization, whether it's a company, a nonprofit, a lab, whatever you're doing, if you're showing up every day and punching the clock, you are building your professional skills and you're gaining experience that'll prepare you to succeed in the workforce after you graduate in whatever area that you choose. And it's something that you'll be able to talk to future employers about the experiences that you gained as well. And be prepared. Research shows that students who intern are much more likely to get a job offer upon graduation. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, you've already shown that you have a level of professionalism, that you were able to complete an internship, that you showed up every day, you did your assignments. And building those skills in a real world situation is something that employers are really looking for. You can certainly get experience in your classes and working on projects, but actually having professional experience is something that employers are definitely in tune to. And then another thing about being prepared is that many companies have a pipeline that is directly connected from their intern program to their entry-level positions. And so depending, again, on the company and the size of the company, it may be a situation where if you complete a successful internship, you'll get an offer for full-time employment after graduation. And some companies make these offers 12 months or more in advance. So by doing an internship, not only are you gaining real-world skills, you're also it's like an extended job interview for a lot of companies. And so if you research companies that have that kind of pipeline and that like to hire from their intern pool, then you'll already be set after graduation. Okay, so now we're going to move on to what do I look for in an internship?
Okay, so what do I look for in an internship? There are a few things that we want to provide to you as sort of guidelines. The first is that you want your internship to provide meaningful work. So anything that is relevant to your major area of study, if it's relevant to your career goals, and you want it to be an opportunity to think critically and contribute. So anything where you're learning new things, taking on projects, contributing to a real world work environment is something that you should look for in an internship. Opportunities to learn. So a lot of internships will have clear learning objectives or an outline of responsibilities or some expectations of what the intern should be able to complete from the beginning to the end of the internship. And there should also be some skills that you know you need to develop. So if you see an internship that maybe requires you to complete a project that you've never done before, or requires you to learn a new skill such as, you know, Microsoft Excel or any other software, that would be useful to you. And make sure that includes, you know, some ways to challenge yourself. So to sort of push yourself out of your comfort zone. And then also be sure to look for something that allows you to build connections. So an opportunity to meet people, to network with people, meet other people in your field, maybe even find a mentor who you can talk to and ask them for career advice, or ask them, you know, how they got to their point in their career, what advice they'd have for you in your professional path. Of course, with COVID, you won't be able to network with these people in person necessarily. But just that opportunity to meet new people and see how they have built their careers. Some things that you should also look out for. I'm just going to list these red flags kind of quickly. You know, if an internship is unpaid, of course, unpaid internships are perfectly legal. And as Shannon mentioned, typically charities, nonprofits, government agencies will not pay interns. But under the Fair Labor Standards Act, it's actually expected for-profit companies to pay their interns. You can actually find the guidelines online, or you can approach any one of us in the office. But basically, what the Fair Labor Standards Act requires is that employers pay their interns if they're contributing projects that help meet the bottom line, or if students have to be trained and things like that. So if you have any questions about whether it's fair that the internship is paid or unpaid, or if you're not comfortable with the parameters set for that, you can come and talk to us and ask us any questions. If you feel like anything about the internship posting raises a red flag, such as the company location is in a weird place, like you searched it on Google Maps and it's in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere, or someone's residential home, or the website is a little odd, like it's missing a lot of information, just make sure that you double check, you know, different web pages, Google the company, look at the website in detail. You know, is it outdated? Does the homepage only have information about the job posting itself and not really anything about the company or the people who work there? Those are bad signs. But if you're not sure, again, come and talk to us and we can check it out for you. And also be aware of common scams. You can Google the company name with the word scam, and you'll probably get a result pretty quickly if the company is known for coming up with scams. Some common scams include, you know, a company saying, we'll mail you a check and you just have to cash the check and send the money to us. Or if the company says, you know, immediately you're hired without interviewing you or asking for your resume or anything like that. Those are signs that the company is probably just going to try to trick you in some way. Another thing to look out for is if the company is a well-known company, but the email that you received is from a weird email address. So say, for instance, you applied for Southwest Airlines, but the recruiter emailed you from a Gmail account. That may be fraudulent. So just be sure that you're, you know, remaining vigilant about any sorts of red flags. And of course, if you're not sure, come and talk to us. So how do I find an internship? The main avenue that we recommend is Handshake, simply because Handshake is going to be your one-stop shop for all things career development. And UD Handshake actually houses jobs and internships that come directly to UD from employers who we work with. So on Handshake, you can actually go into your profile, set your preferences, and Handshake will automatically email you recommendations based on what your preferences are. And then you can also access just the full list of current open internships, either internships that are going now or in the future. Another avenue is to attend campus events. Of course, our campus events are mostly virtual this year, but we have workshops such as this one that you're watching right now that are pre-recorded. We also have live webinars that you can attend that we host through Zoom and online. We'll have resume workshops, we'll have job search boot camps. We also are hosting a virtual job fair this semester. So all of our employers will be signing on through Handshake to recruit all of our students online. So you can keep up to date with all the events that we're hosting through Handshake, and we'll also be sending email updates to everyone. Finally, the third avenue that I recommend for finding internships is just general job boards. So as I mentioned, Handshake is great. You can also look at the OPCD website, and there we have a list of trusted job boards that we recommend, and we even have them split up by area of interest or industry, so you can look there too. And other websites that are good are LinkedIn. LinkedIn is actually good because you can see what jobs are posted, and LinkedIn will also tell you if one of your connections works for the company or is connected to the company in any way. And finally, Indeed and Glassdoor are just other good ones. Indeed is a job scraper, so it'll actually take active jobs and internships from the internet and put them all in one place. And Glassdoor is another good one where you can find jobs but also see reviews from people who've worked for the company. You can find common interview questions that the company tends to ask its applicants, etc. So those are some good starter places to go and find postings. And so a typical application for an internship is similar to applying for any job. So you would first start out by submitting an application online. And the application form is usually a typical form asking for your name, your address, your contact information, and sometimes it'll require you to copy paste any work information, education information, etc. from your resume. Then you would also attach a resume, and sometimes you would attach a cover letter. And a cover letter would just be an expansion of what's on your resume that is relevant to the job that you're applying for. The second step is usually a follow-up. So you can email a contact that you know at the company to let them know that you applied, and just sort of to give them a heads up to look out for your resume. Your third step would be a phone or video interview. So if the recruiter likes what they saw in your resume, in your cover letter, or in your application, they'll give you a call, or they'll send you an invitation to interview via a video chat. Or they may even have you send in a pre-recorded video interview where you are prompted to answer a couple questions, record yourself answering the questions, and then submitting it to the employer. The fourth step is typically an in-person interview. And usually these are for companies that are a little more selective or bigger companies. So the in-person interview isn't always required. And of course, during COVID, they're not really possible. So the fourth step would maybe be an additional video interview, or it may be skipped altogether. And then the fifth step is the offer. And that's when the employer would contact you to let you know that you were offered the internship. For bigger companies, the turnaround for this typical application process could be anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple of months, depending on how many applicants they've had. With smaller to mid-sized firms, you may not have to wait that long to hear back. And it also depends on when the internship occurs. For example, right now we're in the fall semester and you're applying for a fall semester internship, you'd hear pretty quickly whether you got it or not. But if you're applying to a summer 2021 internship, then you may not hear until the spring that you've been offered the internship.
Okay, so now that you've got an internship, now what? So how to make the most of your internship? First, we have a couple of tips, but the first one is to treat it like a real job. And by that, we mean be professional. So that means being punctual, being polite, having a positive attitude, and being nicely dressed. And that goes into the whole thing of know your environment. So if you're in an environment where they're going to be dressing business casual, then you want to make sure that you're following that. If you are going to be in a workplace that's more casual, like smart casual, where you can wear jeans and a nice shirt, do that as well. So follow what your other employees are doing. Next is to give every project 100% and to understand the expectations of the job and your supervisor. So at the end of the day, an internship, like we said before, is a 3 to 6 month interview of, into future full-time offer opportunities, as well as more opportunities throughout the company. So you want to make sure that you're treating this like a real job, as if you were a real full-time employee, just in case there's other opportunities. Second is to take initiative. So show your commitment, do whatever it takes to get the job done. Ask for additional projects if you run out of things to do, and then don't expect any hand-holding. And really all of those things in the take initiative section is about making your boss's life easier. That's what I always say to interns. Your job is to find ways to make your boss's life easier. So if it's finding a way to streamline systems or completing projects that they didn't have time to do, take the initiative and ask for more. Third is to ask questions. So asking for clarification on a project, don't be afraid to ask for guidance on something you maybe never done before, and don't make assumptions. These three things, what I would say to those is that you always want to try to find the solution first. And if you can't find the solution, then ask so that you can make sure that your communication of what they're expecting and what you give them is actually on point. And then with the ask questions, ask for feedback. It's completely okay to ask your supervisor, how am I doing? Is there anything I could have done better or differently? Asking for feedback shows that there's self-awareness, that you want to continue to improve and grow. And then finally, it's to meet people. So learn about other people who work for the company and build your network. And, through references or letters of recommendation, especially as interns, you're going to have opportunities to be able to talk with leadership, either one-on-one or in group settings. Anytime you have those opportunities, take them, because it's a great way to ask questions to higher ups and learn more about how they got to where they are today. And all of these things will help you make sure that you can convert your internship into a full-time job lead or into helping your skill set as you move on to other opportunities. So with that, we just want to talk about upcoming events that we have for fall 2020. Gabby's touched on some of these, but we are going to be doing virtual events this year. All of our events are going to be on Handshake. They're going to be doing live workshops through Zoom. We're calling it the Career Odyssey. And so we have the resume workshop part 1 in the basics. We're also going to be going through a tutorial on the Word on how to format resumes on September 3rd. We're having the resume workshop part 2, and that's going to be talking about the bullet points, the content, and cover letters on September 10th. We're doing a virtual networking session, and what that means is we're talking about the tips on having virtual networking and workshops on LinkedIn and communicating with people via email. So this could be with UD alumni, this could be with recruiters, and this is a really great segue into our job fair the week after. We're going to be having our virtual job and internship fair on September 24th from 3 to 6 p.m. This one's actually going to be on Handshake, and you're going to be able to have opportunities to either sign up for one-on-one sessions with recruiters and representatives, or you can sign up for group sessions where the recruiter or the representative will talk to a whole group of multiple people, and then you'll be able to kind of contribute, especially if you have time or not. And then finally, just make sure to follow us on social media. Our handle is UD Career Dev. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can also find our other pre-recorded workshops on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/UD Career Civs. And then again, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email us at career@udallas.edu. Thank you so much.